what may be confusing to some is that there are actually three revenue streams that are all around $350,000. So I guess it's easy to confuse them, and then there's another much larger revenue stream that's in excess of $800,000. So could you just do a quick breakdown of where those specific revenue streams came from, although some of that will be redundant to the previous answer, and where they're going to go?
Sure, and I wouldn't call them revenue streams, I'd call them savings, and it's a result of our refunding. We saved approximately $1.6 million when we refunded the bonds back in February 2012, and the refunding was targeted to 3 fiscal years. $375,000 to the fiscal year we're in. So that gave us a budget surplus in this fiscal year.
So just to interrupt, you make an important point. So that is not like a sum of money was delivered to you in cash. It was savings realized against future borrowing costs.
That's correct. We have a debt service schedule. It's just like a loan schedule. After the refunding, that schedule was reduced. So now we have reduced loan liabilities out there. It affected this fiscal year, $375,000. So I didn't have to pay that much interest this year. In next fiscal year, we were able to reduce our debt service debt by $800,000. That's already incorporated in the budget we're working on. In fiscal year 13-14, we'll be paying $375,000 less in interest payments in that year. If we didn't refund, our budget would be that much more. And then the other $300,000 amount that's been thrown around is a $370,000 in premium we received from our last bonding, and that affected this year. That went into a revenue account.
One of the questions that I see cropping up, and one that has been asked of me, is if the premium amount which is being applied, if that's in effect found money or money that was not anticipated coming into the system as savings, why then did you still request $400,000, which has subsequently been reduced to $200,000 by the council in the next year's budget, and an additional $400,000 in fiscal year 2013?
That was always part of our plan going back to March, possibly late February. If you look at the attachment on the Board of Finance minutes of March 14th, you'll see a bond fund balance forecast plan there. In fact, in that plan, we had for this fiscal year $775,000. We had $400,000 planned for 12-13 and $400,000 planned to 13-14 to bring us to the 8% fund balance figure.
And hypothetically, what would the impact have been on taxpayers to try to reach that 8% mark had you not had the premium amount?
Oh yeah, the premium amount really helped. I mean, we obviously in the calculation we would have needed more in the future fiscal years. At the same time, when we go to bond in February 2013 and we visit with the rating agencies again, they will be very pleased to see that we had an operating surplus and we had a good year, a good financial year.
So in fact, applying the found money that was the premium, for lack of a better term, it is potentially reducing the amount you're going to be asking the taxpayers to pay to help infuse the fund balance to the level you promised by Moody's in 2012-13 and again in 13-14.
That's correct. Yeah.
Let me just add a little bit of detail to that. Our undesignated fund balance right now is at 7.1% of operating budget. If we are successful in moving the $700,000 that we are speaking about into the undesignated fund balance, we will be at 7.68% of operating budget. If the proposed budget is successfully passed and puts an additional $200,000 into the undesignated fund balance, we'll be at 7.8% by the end of fiscal 13. So again, the rating agencies have made such a point of focus on our fund balance and our need to grow that fund balance to at least the minimum level of 8%, which is still a couple of percentage points away from other similarly rated communities. The Board of Finance clearly is feeling a lot of pressure around that issue, which is I'm certain is what motivated them to propose that we add another $400,000 to the fund balance that was subsequently reduced by the Legislative Council to $200,000. Given the plan that the Finance Director has put forth right now, it still would require an additional allocation into fund balance of $400,000 in fiscal 14 for us to come up to the 8%. So we're hoping that that money is provided, at least in part, by growing our grant list, by increasing our taxation, particularly in the commercial sector. So we're trying to work very hard to reduce the impact on taxation. But that is the plan going forward.
Ms. Llodra, you already alluded in the previous answer to the impact that these policy-generated infusions to the fund balance could potentially make. But let's broaden the view and talk about the three-point initiative that you've outlined, because the enhancement or sustaining of Newtown's current municipal bond rating is just one piece of that.
Yes, I think there are three pieces that work very closely together. The first piece is to reduce debt. The second piece is to reduce taxation, and the third piece is to preserve the bond rating. Those three pieces work together. If we are successful in reducing our debt, in fact, we are then able to reduce taxation and preserve that bond rating, which creates that ongoing cycle of positive support in the rating agencies, because we are frequent borrowers through the bonding process. So as I look forward over the next 10 years or so, we have major projects, school projects and town projects, that will necessitate continued borrowing in the bond market. We need to be able to borrow at the best possible rate so that we don't have an undue impact on taxation. So again, part of the basis of creating the best scenario for us is to reduce our debt, pay that down as aggressively as we can, and to reduce taxation at the same time. So we are working hard on both of those fronts, and the end result of that effort is to preserve the most positive bond rating we can achieve.
I guess it's also important to ask and to clarify that in the fiscal year 12-13 that begins July 1st, 2012, within that fiscal year there will be an attempt or an effort to go and seek bonding. But there is, as we stand here today, no plan or hope to further refund any bonds in the next fiscal year, is there, Mr. Tait?
There's always a possibility, or we hope we can refund bonds.
Sure.
But we've been told, for the most part, most of our bonds are fully refunded.
There's no expectation today.
There's no expectation that we would refund bonds in next fiscal year.
But there will be a bonding initiative for the capital projects that are long planned.
That's right.